Welcome to Nightstand Coffee.
Hello, everybody. We're back again.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. I'm Todd.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we're glad you've joined us.
And so we are going to talk today about Fighting Fair.
Yes.
And so we've been kind of talking through this for, a week or two now.
That's right.
Kind of picking through what do we want to talk about on this episode and why is this important? And so we've got some thoughts for you.
Right. And again, before we dive into this conversation, we want to know what you'd like to hear about.
Yeah.
What are the things that you struggle with? What are the common things in your relationships that come up? What are the things that you feel like you need to grow in? Or we'd love to hear from you because we want this to be helpful. And so let us know.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about why fighting fair is important.
Well, because all couples fight.
That's true.
And
it's usually not fair.
Yeah. Well, and so those disagreements and those times of conflict are inevitable because we're people, right? Mm-hmm. And so those things are going to happen, but there is a way that you can approach them where you can overcome those obstacles together and actually grow stronger as a couple because you're able to do that, because you're able to work for and with one another rather than against each other. And so while fighting is inevitable, fighting that causes deeper separation is doesn't have to happen.
Right.
Fighting can actually bring you closer together if you do it well.
True. And so, I think part of it is about fighting with maturity.
Yeah.
Or disagreeing with maturity, maybe, because I don't think we always do that.
Yeah. Well, we tend to see it as very personal, right? And so if they disagree with your opinion on something, they disagree with you, right? Like who you are, fundamentally, that kind of thing. And we take it personally. And so then when we take it personally, then we get defensive, and then we go, oh yeah, well. Then, snap, whatever. And
that's so early 90s.
Yeah.
He was moving his head and his neck.
That's right. You can't see it, but my head's going around in circles because I've got attitude.
Oh my gosh.
And so, but that's kind of how we respond to it. Like if you disagree with my opinion on something, you disagree with me.
True.
Right. And that's running rampant in our culture at large. Right. But it finds its way into our personal relationships. And there's a microcosm of that happening on a level with married couples. And then when we fight in that way, it divides us.
Right.
And so we have to first of all recognize that a difference of opinion about a particular subject or about a particular situation doesn't mean that they disagree with me as a person.
True. Well, and I think we also have to consider that anger is a form of manipulation.
Yes.
Like when you're angry with someone, you're basically saying, I don't like what you just did or what you said, or I don't like fill in the blank. And so I'm going to be angry with you until you change your behavior.
Right.
And so until you do something different, I'm going to be mad. And so also, although I do have a friend that would disagree on this topic, but I do feel like that anger is a secondary emotion, in that typically there is another feeling that you're feeling that you express in anger. So anger is a very socially acceptable emotion to have.
For the most part.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
People expect you to get mad about things. They don't expect you to necessarily feel disappointment, or people don't always tolerate sadness or any other emotion that you would have. And so often we express our feelings in anger when there's really something else that's driving that anger. Yeah. So it could be disappointment. It could be sadness. It can be fear. It could be anxiety. It could be, just anything could be happening. You're feeling dismissed, undervalued. Right. Well, express that in anger.
And there are times when anger is appropriate.
Sure.
Right. But it's how we express it that makes all the difference.
For sure.
When we see injustice in the world, it should make us angry. Right. But so let's say I see someone who is being victimized. And in response to that, then what I do is just victimize someone else. Well, that's not an appropriate response. Now, an appropriate response would be to help that person, right? To help lift them out of the situation that they're in, to even shield them from abuse if that's what's happening, that kind of thing. But like that kind of old like retribution kind of thing, well, where it's like, okay, you hurt somebody I love, I'm going to hurt you.
Right.
Well, that's not an appropriate response to our anger.
Right. And so I think like a really great stopping point or starting point really is to ask yourself, what is it that I'm really feeling? Like if you're angry, like stopping, okay, so what's behind this? What am I feeling? Why am I angry?
Yeah.
What's going on inside of me? Like I think that was a growth spot for me to understand, okay, when I'm angry, what's the real feeling that I'm feeling right now that I don't feel safe communicating, but I feel safe communicating my anger.
Yeah.
And so like that takes some like introspection to stop and go, really, what's this about for me?
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I don't know that I have anything to add to that. I think that's easier said than done.
Well, probably.
Because either we've just been accustomed to expressing our anger freely and in unhealthy ways because we grew up with that kind of thing, or it's just a pattern that we've fallen into with our spouse because there's been maybe a long season of animosity and disagreement, and you've held on to bitterness and and holding a grudge for things that were said years ago, or whatever. You've fallen into this pattern of this is how we communicate with each other, and so you just keep doing it. And the thing about when we do stuff over and over is that we develop what we might call muscle memory.
Well, yeah, neural pathways.
Yeah. And so that's where our brain goes.
It's almost automatic.
Immediately, right. And so to break that kind of cycle is sometimes very difficult. And so you have to work at it, right? You have to give one another permission to call it out, and in a way that will arrest both of you in the process, that will stop you, right? So it can't just be, hey, don't talk to me that way, but like maybe you agree on a particular phrase or a particular way of responding where you go, I think we need a timeout, or I think, whatever, coconut, you gotta.
That's our kid's nickname. I don't think we should yell coconut. She won't know what's going on. I think you're better.
Come up here.
Whatever. Okay. I think that you're better at receiving my redirection than I am at receiving your redirection. Like if I try to say, hey, like, just like you respond better. I don't do as well hearing that from you. I'm just owning it.
Okay.
To all our listeners, I own that. So,
but I wasn't always good at that.
True, but I don't always need it.
Oh well, but I don't need that.
Okay, but when it happens, I don't like it. Right? I'll say that. Okay. So I think another thing that's really important, like when you're fighting, is that, or disagreeing, whatever word we want to use, is like you need to understand the purpose of like you're wanting to solve a problem, right? You're not wanting to prove that you're right. You're not wanting to hurt somebody. You're not wanting to put them in their place. Ultimately, you want to solve it.
Yeah.
And so like you've got to understand the goal, because the goal isn't to hurt the person more. The goal isn't to say, to call them names and hurt their feelings so that you're right. The goal isn't for you to get your way. The goal has to be to solve it.
Yeah. You have to be aiming at resolution and not at and you said this, and not at winning.
Yeah.
Right. If I have to prove that I am right, but I don't act righteously in doing so, then there's a problem. Right. There's a breakdown there. And I may win the argument and lose the battle. Right. You can win the argument and lose what's really important. And so the object and the goal always has to be resolution. We have to remember that we're not fighting against the other person.
Right.
We should be fighting with them, right? Toward a solution. We should be fighting for them, for each other. And if we can remember
alongside them, maybe be a better way. Like you're doing the hand motion of hands next to each other.
Right. Coming together.
And they don't see that.
True.
So,
It's an audio medium.
This is true.
Maybe
So-
we should be on YouTube.
then I'd have to like comb my hair. I don't know.
Right. I know. And I would have to, yeah.
Anyway, so like when you come alongside and like ultimately you want to be on the same team and that you're wanting to solve it, you're not trying to have an adversary.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And so, I mean, some of the things that I've talked about before on Busted Biscuits. So if we have double listeners, you may have heard this before, but like talking about like you need to pay attention to your body. And so like whenever you're starting to fight, like I've learned to pay attention to it, feeling it rising up.
Right.
Like I feel that anger just coming from my belly button and going up into my throat. You just feel it coming up. And so like as I've learned to notice that, I go, oh, when I feel this feeling, when I feel this rise up,
Right.
I know that I need to monitor what is coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Because if not, then I'm going to end up owing someone an apology because it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
I can't give in to this. Like I know that I need to pay attention to what I'm going to say right now.
Right.
And so like I've really focused on making that a like a physical awareness. Okay, so this doesn't feel good. I'm feeling wound up. I got to watch what comes out.
Yeah. So understand your body cues. I think another thing would be like, know what your triggers are. For a lot of us, there are certain things that are pet peeves for us, or certain topics that hit us a little differently. You know, whatever. But understand what your triggers are. One of the things we talk about sometimes with the freedom groups that we lead at our church, or and it's not unique to me, but there's the acronym HALT, right? Which it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And so if you can have the self-control to pause long enough to ask yourself, is one of these things true about me? Am I responding, am I hangry, right? Am I responding out of, a tiredness, or whatever the case may be, and ask yourself those questions, and the old kind of take a deep breath and count to 10 thing. They sound cliche, but they're true and they work. And so I think those kinds of things can go a long way toward diffusing a moment of tension, I think is the word I was looking for.
Probably. And so I think you also need to keep in mind, like, not to name call.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm always surprised at the numbers of couples who are willing to call each other names and not pet
nice
names.
Yeah, no, like really not nice names.
Yeah.
Like names we can't say on here because we would be considered explicit.
That's right.
We'd have to change our rating. Yeah. So like, I think what we lose sight of sometimes is that like of all the person in all the world that we picked to spend the rest of our life with and said, hey, I want to do life with you. You know, like I want to be in a foxhole with you. I want to like fight this battle with you. I want to like, you're my person.
Right.
And so we forget that we picked them and we treat them like dirt.
Yeah. And we forget we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And
that at one point, like you just had a longing to be with them, like that you would give up everything to be in their presence. Like you forget about that.
And if anybody else called them that name, what would you do?
Katie, bar the door. It's happening. It's going down. Somebody's going to pay.
If anybody else talked to them that way, you'd be
lit on fire.
Yes. And yet we're willing to talk to each other that way.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just not acceptable because it takes that disagreement from a place where maybe it feels personal to a place where it is personal. Right. When you start levying those kinds of things, when you start throwing out names like that, when you start demeaning the other person, then that is personal. Yeah. And man, that reveals a deeper issue in your relationship that is systemic, that's cancer, that you need to cut out. You need to get rid of that thing or it will poison your entire relationship. And, I've seen it happen,
Well, what's the point of it? Like, the point isn't when you throw a name at somebody, the point isn't to solve it. It's to it's childish, honestly.
Right.
And it's like, it's tearing the other person down and it's like removing their power. And it's like, why?
Yeah. Well, the language that Jesus used surrounding that kind of thing was to equate it with murder. He's saying we're killing them with our words. Because he literally says, you have heard that it was said, do not commit murder. But I say to you, if you say to your brother, you fool, you're in danger of hellfire, right? And so what he's saying is that we are killing them with our words, right? And so that is another person who's created in the image of God, right? And that Jesus died for, right? And then we're willing to demean and degrade that person who is created with beauty and with honor and with value, and we take the liberty of defiling that with our words.
Well, and so I think it's in Romans, I want to say chapter 12, but I'm a little nervous to go farther than that. But basically where it says, as far as it depends on me, live at peace, or as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Yeah. And so like that it's really, our goal should be at peace. And so then we don't need to be fighting just to fight. Right. And so like there's times that you need to express yourself and have a firm opinion, but it doesn't have to be in a debilitating way.
Yeah. Look, and there are times when there are very good reasons for us to disagree with one another. Right? There are times when maybe your spouse does not see the red flag. Yeah. And you need, like, because you love them, to disagree and go, this is not a good idea. We do not need to do this. We can't, and be strong in that stance. But when it becomes a thing where if you don't come over to my side, you're an idiot. If you don't come, I can't believe that you would, well, look, they have good reasons for thinking the way they think, and there's just no place for us to do that if we want to walk together.
Well, and so I think it's also important to consider that like you can't solve a problem in a state of arousal. Right. And so like meaning like you can't be yelling at each other and really solve anything. Yeah. Right. So like you have to be willing to if it escalates to the point where you're yelling, it has to come down to like you need to take it down to a conversational level. Right. And
or walk away for a little while. Like I said
Wouldn't
before,
that be nice?
like yeah.
Because you don't let me walk away for a little bit.
Well, I've gotten better. And we can talk some about that too, like what that might be motivated out of. But I was saying before, like come to a place of agreement where when it gets to that place that you're able to call each other out and go, hey, we need a timeout. Yeah. We've got to stop. This isn't good. This isn't.
Well, and like if people think that's crazy, like really consider the last time you fought with someone or any time you fought with someone. Like when you're screaming and yelling at each other, you aren't solving it. It's when that escalation comes down to conversation and you're just in tones of communication. Right. Like that's really when it's over. When people are screaming, it doesn't end.
Oh, never.
It doesn't.
Never.
Yeah.
But so let's talk a little bit about that. Why it's difficult maybe for some people to walk away and take a break, that kind of thing. What the motivations behind that might be, and why it's really helpful for us to learn how to do that.
Okay, so sometimes I need to take a break,
and I don't want to.
And you don't want to at all.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And so so like for me, like I know that I need to step away, or I'm going to give in to whatever's rising up inside of me, and I need to take a minute to get back control of what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and to make sure that something doesn't come out of my mouth that I need to apologize for.
Right. And so for you, exercising self-control in that moment is walking away.
And I don't even know that I try to walk that far. I just might get quiet. I just might stop engaging in it. And so like, I know the other day I had a very hormonal moment and I knew I was not in a good spot to talk about whatever. And you kept wanting to talk to me and I'm like, I am trying to be in self-control here. Let me have my moment.
Right. Right. And I think I was really wanting to talk to you, not even necessarily about what was bothering you. But I couldn't have conversation because you were clearly
in a different space mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I wanted to find out what was going on so that we could talk about other things, because there were things that I was wanting to connect with you about. There were things that I was kind of working through, some issues that I was wanting to talk to you about, but I couldn't because you were not there.
Wasn't right. Correct. And so So yeah, sometimes I do need some space, but that's not, you've definitely gotten better at that, but you don't like it.
No, I don't. So it's really hard for me because I want everybody to be okay.
Yeah.
I want everything to be smoothed over. I have a really conflict is really difficult for me, and I like my mom even talks about like how when I was a kid, she called me her little peacemaker. Like I always wanted everybody to be okay.
You are the middle child.
Yeah. And I was always the one who was willing to not get my way so that everybody else would be happy. And I just wanted everybody to be okay, everybody to be friends. And so when I feel like there's conflict, I want to do whatever I can to just resolve it, you know? And so it's really hard sometimes for me to walk away from a disagreement, even just to let you calm down.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh no, we're not okay. There's conflict. There's this, and man, it's a thing inside of me. I feel like I feel tied up in knots until that's resolved. Mm-hmm. And so it was really hard for me to learn that you really needed that space and that the resolution that I was looking for was on the other side of that space. Mm-hmm. And if I kept pushing because I had a sense of anxiety about the conversation we were having, that it wasn't going to help. It was only going to make it worse.
Well, and then on the flip side of that, then I have to understand that that not having space is difficult for you, and I don't need to milk that time. Yeah. Right? I need to be willing to come back as soon as I can come back so I can relieve that anxiety within you.
Yeah.
Because, I could probably go a couple days if I needed to.
You probably could.
I probably could. so
you probably have.
I probably have. And so I need in my compassion for you, right? I need to understand this isn't good for you. I don't need to milk this time.
Yeah.
Because this is torture for you to have to sit in not talking.
Yeah.
And so I need to be if you're going to give me the space to be able to cool off, then I need to be willing to come to you sooner and not drag it out.
And I think that goes back to what we've said a couple of times about understanding that they think and feel the way that they do, and there are good reasons for it.
Yeah.
Right? They may not be accurate, right? For me, I know that part of why I have that kind of angst and anxiety about conflict is because number one, I grew up in a home where there was a lot of conflict. Mm-hmm. And then number two, I came into agreement with a lie as a kid that said where there is conflict, there is abandonment. Mm. Where there is conflict, there is separation. Mm-hmm. Where there is conflict, there is rejection. And so I operate from that erroneous, right? From that false understanding. I operate because I believed a lie.
Yeah.
And so it's taken a long time for me to come to a place where I lean into the truth that says just because Jennifer disagrees with me doesn't mean that she hates me, right? Just because Jennifer disagrees with me doesn't mean that she's going to abandon me. It doesn't mean we're, whatever. And so it took me a while to get to that place. And for you, I had to learn that understanding of there's a reason that she's telling me, and there's a good reason that she's telling me, I need you to leave me alone right now. And so we have to see the other person as a person, right? A fully formed person with a backstory and with feelings and emotions and, wounds that they're carrying that maybe haven't healed, all of that stuff. But we forget about all that because we're only looking at ourselves, how I feel, what I want, and whenever the focus is me, then I will always act and respond in ways that are not considering the other person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so I think it's also important that we talk about you need to seek to understand them.
Yes.
And where they're coming from and what they're communicating. Yeah. And so the best way to do that would be to restate what you heard them say. Okay, so I don't know. I can't think of an issue right now that I don't know. I don't. Can you think of anything that would be something to give an example of?
I don't know. I mean, I know we talked I think maybe in the last episode, even we talked a little bit about what I hear you saying is,
Yeah. Essentially, so like just being able to say like, okay, this is what I heard. This is what you said,
right?
Because this is the message that I got when you said that. Is that what you're wanting me to take away here?
Yeah.
Right. And so like making sure, and like I think both genders need to do it. Men and women need to be able to do that, because like I want to make sure that I'm getting the message that you're sending me, because this is what I heard. Is that what you just said to me?
Right. And guys, find the words,
dude, for
to
real.
express how you feel. Mm-hmm. Find them. It is incredibly important for you and for your wife.
Yeah.
But I know it's difficult for guys sometimes to dig into that thing. Maybe there's cultural pressure where we feel like we've got to be strong, that, we feel sometimes that we're protecting our wife by not talking to her about the things that are weighing on us. Well, I don't want to burden her with that. I don't want her to have to deal with that. I don't want her to be afraid, whatever. We can't do that.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the story in Genesis, when God creates Eve, it says that in all of creation, so Adam had named all the animals, and then it says there wasn't a suitable helper who could be found for Adam. And then God says it's not good for man to be alone. And so God's response to that is to take a rib out of Adam and create Eve, create a suitable helper for him, right? And so if you are not sharing with your wife the things that you're wrestling with, if you're not sharing your heart with her, if you're not partnering with her to achieve the goals that you have and the goals that she has, like if you're not working together for those things, then you're not even allowing her to function in the role that God created her to function in.
Well, and to make the point that happened in perfection. Right? That's before sin entered the world. So like this connection and this need to be next to each other, helping each other, needing a companion happened in the garden before sin came, because Eve had to be here before sin could happen, right? Like in the story. So like we think that needing someone is a weakness or needing to rely on someone is a problem. But the reality is that God said, it's not good that man be alone.
Right.
Here's a partner.
We were created for a relationship.
Yes, with God and for each other.
Right. We were created to be in relationship with God, and we were created to be in a relationship with each other.
Yep.
And to
prevent that in some way is problematic.
Yeah. Well, and look, here's the thing. When sin did enter in, and God pronounced the curse over Adam and Eve, one of the things that he says to Eve is that your desire will be for your husband and he will lord over you. He will rule over you, right? And so God is saying that as a result of sin, this relationship is going to be hard, right? And so we have to expect that there's going to be conflict. There's going to be difficulty. It is part of living in a fallen and broken world. And if we recognize that this issue, I mean, if you go to the New Testament, the language the New Testament uses in regard to this kind of thing is we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness. And so the enemy is not your spouse.
Yeah.
The enemy is a spiritual one. And if we will fight together that spiritual battle, right, then there's nothing that we can't overcome in regard to some disagreement that we might have.
Yeah. Well, and so even today I was in a session with someone. I was on a Zoom session, and so I was talking about like disagreeing in a relationship. And so one of the things I talked about was the need to like review the footage. Like after a disagreement happened and like everything's kind of resolved, then like you need to A, assess it from your perspective, and then B, talk about it with your person, like what happened. And so like, hey, whenever we talked about this is where I went wrong. Or I learned in this situation, I need to do this instead. Like I recognize that I didn't support you like I should have, and I should have done this. And like, look at it and go, okay, so
it's game film.
It is like I said, review the footage, see what went right, what went wrong, and like what needs to change, and like and discuss that. But make sure when you do that you don't re-enter the fight and be going, yeah, I know you should have listened to me. Like none of that junk. Like that's not what you need. You know, like take the vulnerability of your partner when they say, you know what, I probably should have listened. You don't rub it in and rub their nose in it and go, that's right, you should have, because blah blah blah.
Yeah, and that's for some people though, that's super hard because all they want to do is just forget it. Like, you know, because maybe you grew up in a family where that was how you handled things. Everybody blew up and said all kinds of ridiculous things to each other, and then you just don't ever talk about it again.
Yeah, I would hate that. I couldn't survive in that.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. But that's how a lot of people handle those kinds of things, and it's not healthy. Right? Because really, what happens is there's just all this stuff under the rug.
It's a really bumpy rug. There's a lot of stubbing your toes.
I always equate it to the city of New Orleans. Mm-hmm. All of the graves in New Orleans are vaults on top of the ground. Yeah, because the city of New Orleans is below sea level, and so if you bury people underground in New Orleans, they'll actually float back to the surface because the water table is so high. Yeah, and because and so. I think that's what happens when we try to stuff things down. When we try to we're just going to ignore this and not ever talk about it again. We're going to sweep it under the rug. We're going to bury it, whatever. It will find a way to resurface because it's all under sea level, right? Those things, whether it's in health issues, like it can, stress and the carrying all of that can manifest itself in health issues. Whether it's you stuff it, and then all of a sudden this volcano erupts, and and not only do you get angry, but maybe you get violent. There's all kinds of unhealthy ways that it will eventually express itself, and so you can't just keep ignoring it. You can't just keep stuffing it down because it will manifest in really unhealthy ways, and you're never going to then work together towards solutions, right? Toward growth and toward health, which is what you want, right? No one ever goes into a marriage going, 3 years from now we're going to hate each other and we're going to stop this.
Oh yeah. Does it take 3 years? I think you go south a lot quicker than that typically.
Well, I'm just, just throwing out an arbitrary number, but I'm saying nobody goes in going, this is what we're going to do. We're going to follow.
We're going to fail at this.
We're just going to keep doing all the unhealthy things that we, and then not ever work toward a solution and then say bye.
Yeah, you're right. No one wants to sign up for that.
Right.
Save your money.
Right. Yeah.
Weddings are expensive these days. Save your money.
Yeah.
Well, and so talking it through and saying, I should have done this differently. I should have said this or should not have said that. Like discussing it and owning it. It's owning your role in what happened and like openly committing to trying something different next time. Yeah. And say, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. Next time I'm going to do this instead. And like talking through that and have some vulnerability in that. Right. But when your partner is vulnerable, do not eat them alive with that and rub their nose in it. Like that will shut down vulnerability so fast. Like you will never see the inside of that person's heart again if you do that.
Right.
That will be like locked and buried. You'll never see it.
Yeah. And then, and especially for husbands, I think it's true for wives too, but I especially would want to challenge husbands to be first to say, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Be the first. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Be the first to seek reconciliation with, be the first to say, I love you. Be the first, and I've used this example, with men, a few times when I'm speaking to men, and, I boxed for a few years, and I'm really skinny. For those of you who don't maybe know me personally, I'm kind of lanky, and so I was 5'10", 135. That's right, a unit. So, but that meant that all of the guys in my weight class, I say all, most of the guys in my weight class were several inches shorter than me, and did not have nearly the reach that I had. Mm. And so my jab was a really important part of my boxing strategy because I could keep them on the outside. I could keep them at the range that was good for me, right? So that I could dictate the pace of the fight. I could dictate the action. But in order to do that, I had to be first. I had to initiate the action. That was not my natural response as a fighter. My natural inclination was to be a counterpuncher, to let them come to me and then counter. But that was not my best strategy. And so for me to win, I had to be first. And I remember that my trainer would yell, be first, be first, be first, be first, over and over when I was sparring, when I was trying to drill that into my head. And it worked. It was a great strategy because he understood what the advantage was if I would do that. Mm-hmm. And I think the same is true when it comes to marriage. And in fact, and especially when we understand that in the marriage relationship, that the man, that our role and our design is to represent Christ in regard to our wife, right? That, the Apostle Paul said that marriage is like the relationship between Christ and the church. Jesus always is initiating toward us. He initiates in coming to earth. Mm-hmm. He initiates in laying down his life. He initiates and he calls us, and then we respond. And so as husbands, we should be seeking to do that always, to be first, to be the one that initiates in loving relationship, initiates in reconciliation, initiates in forgiveness, be first. And then our wives will respond to that in ways that, are redemptive.
Well, and so to be clear, you're giving a jabbing example, the jab first. That's not what you're saying. You're saying that you don't want them to fight first. You want them to come first and apologize.
Yes.
Because you said that you, in your fighting and teaching, you punch. Well, actually, that's not what we want you to do. We'll use the example of going first, but not to actually be the jabber.
Right. Yeah. And I guess in the context of talking about
fighting
and arguing, that may not be the best analogy.
That's not a bad one, but just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, well, again, in regard to forgiveness, in regard to saying I love you, in regard to serving your wife, in regard to, be the one to initiate those things. Mm-hmm. Be the one,
Well, so also, when you don't know what to do, it's okay to say that.
Yes.
One of my closest friends, her husband had a rough life, really, but it's turned his life around and is in a different spot. But sometimes he doesn't know what to do, and so he often fights to do nothing. Like he just doesn't know what to do. Like when it comes to feelings and all that, he just doesn't know what to do. And so not too long ago, he said to her, I just don't know what to do in this. I don't know what to do about that. And so that was huge to my friend because she was like, well, and I even said, man, that's huge for him to say that because for him to say, I don't know what to do, this man knows how to do everything. Right. And so to openly say, I don't know what to do in this situation, I think that gained a lot of respect to his wife. My friend was really respected the fact that he was willing to say, I don't know what to do.
Well, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I know that for a lot of men, there's a pride issue at play there. Because maybe you are really capable at a lot of things. Yeah. You're Mr. Fix-It. You can take care of things around the house. You can fix a car. You're crushing it at work, all those kind of things. You're really capable in almost every arena, but you suck at feelings. And you don't know how to support your wife well. You don't know how, but you don't want to admit that. Because it makes you feel like less than a man.
Well, and I do think that there's been a lack of fostering feelings in males.
Yeah.
And maybe too much nurturing in females, possibly.
Yeah.
But I just think there's a struggle with that. Go ahead.
Well, I heard someone recently talking about how to disciple men, and he talked about how that in the 70s. With the rise of feminism, that the kind of the mantra was, I don't need a man. Mm-hmm. And then by the 90s, it had shifted to, I don't want a man. And now we're at a place where people are going, what even is a man?
Interesting.
Right? And he said all that to say that there was a time when we assumed that young boys or younger men knew what it was to be a man.
Yeah.
But they just weren't they were just being passive. They just weren't taking the responsibility that they needed to take. And so that was where the breakdown was. But now we're at a place where young men don't even know how to be men.
Right.
And so we've really got to do a better job, of teaching and recognizing it's not just about calling them higher at this point and calling them to assume responsibility, that it really is about going, I'm not going to assume you know anything.
Right.
And I'm going to take you by the hand and bring you along, and so like I know as a dad of daughters, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm looking at. Like, how can I mentor these young men who may come into my daughter's lives? How can I help them to be successful as husbands? How can I help them grow into manhood?
Yeah.
Because we can't just assume that they've had a good example or an example at all. There are so many young men who are growing up without fathers, and they don't have any context,
right,
for how to do this.
Well, and I think sometimes men think, well, I had to figure it out, so my son or these boys will figure it out too. And so then they just, again, don't know how to do it,
right.
And so they just don't do anything. And so because you don't know what to do,
yeah.
right?
Well, and how many of us though are fooling ourselves and we haven't figured it out?
Yeah, fair.
We've maybe found a, I don't even know what the word would be, but we've found a spot where
I wouldn't call it a sweet spot, but a comfort spot, maybe.
Yeah, where we're comfortable. We've come to a place of equilibrium, maybe with our spouse, but that doesn't mean we've really learned what
Well, and so then I also want to add this piece too, because this is something else that comes up frequently in counseling, is that when the husband is willing to share their feelings, the woman doesn't need to go tell her friends what they were.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's so hard sometimes for the man to be vulnerable and share how they feel. And when they do that, for you to get on the horn and go, yeah, well, my husband said this is how he feels about things.
Yeah.
And so you have to protect that.
Yeah.
You have to understand how special that is, that they're saying how they feel about something, and hold space for it, and don't go tell everyone about it. Right. Now, there may be scenarios where you need to confide in someone, but that's not sit around at the coffee shop and tell all 10 of your friends, this is what he feels.
Yeah, well, because honor and respect is huge for a man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge thing. I can't overstate how important that is. And so for a wife to go and tell her friends when her husband's been vulnerable with her, when he's, it's so disrespecting. It feels emasculating. It feels like, because it feels super risky for a man to share his heart.
Well, it can be risky for a female too.
It can, but I'm just saying, I'm speaking from the male perspective.
Okay. It
feels super risky for a man to risk to expose his heart and to really talk about his feelings, because that's just not what you do, right?
Yeah.
And so then when we do it, and to have that be not treated with
delicacy,
care,
yeah.
It feels like a slap in the face.
Well, it just cuts your legs from out from underneath you.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't help.
I would love to think that we don't have fragile egos as men, but we do, for the most part.
Sure.
And we want a woman. Again, it goes back to that whole idea about wanting to be your wife's hero.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are willing to be vulnerable enough with her, where it feels like at least you're risking her losing that perspective of you,
mm-hmm.
and then she goes and shares that with her friends, then it's like, well, you didn't protect me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's and I think that happens for women too. I know that. I've felt that way before, so I know that can happen. And so,
certainly there have been times that you've shared stuff with me, and I've not handled it well. And obviously you can't go back and change that.
Yeah.
But we need to protect our spouse. Again, it goes back to that whole thing we were talking about. This is the person
mm-hmm.
that you have said that you cherish more than anybody else on this planet.
That you stood before God and committed the rest of your life to.
Yeah. And said you would forsake all others for that person.
Yeah, except if it's juicy, then I'm going to go tell somebody.
Right.
Yeah. And so you got to remember where you started.
Yes.
Like, where did this thing start?
Yeah.
So anyway.
And remember that that's a covenant that's not just, it's not about how you feel. You know, we didn't enter into this. Yes, there were feelings of, you know, those romantic feelings and all of that. And those are beautiful things, but that's not what a covenant is built on. Right.
Yeah. We should probably save that for next time or a time talking about covenant.
Covenant. Yeah.
Because
that'd be good.
Yeah. So I think we've got a list of things even that we're wanting to talk about. I know we've discussed wanting to talk about pornography and like in a marriage and what that does to it and all those things. And
and we probably should discuss the fact that it's not just men.
Sure. And then we've said covenant. I feel like what other things have we thrown around that you can think of?
We talked about the impact that parenting has on a marriage relationship, you know, and like different seasons of life when your kids are young, that's a different set of pressures, you know, and then teenage years. And then, you know, as your kids get older and maybe start leaving the nest, that your relationship changes again. I mean, those are all things we could talk about.
Well, and I think about forgiveness is something.
Yes.
I think that'll be a really nice topic. So we got some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
All right. So what's our closing line? Did we make one?
Have we made one? I don't think we've made one.
Okay. Well, till next time.
There'll be coffee on the nightstand.
Bye, guys.